Welcome to They Live by Film, a platform dedicated to bringing you film discussion and interviews from around the world. I am Adam Lundy, and I am joined as always by my co-hosts Chris Haskell and the returning Zach Bryant.
Hey, I'm so glad you guys let me come back after my suspension.
We promised people that you weren't kicked. We promised and we've delivered. He has returned for the first time in 2024. Welcome back, Zach.
Welcome back, Zach. We figured that you lost the best year in film, so you had to take a timeout.
Oh, yes, I did. I just needed it. And I honestly, I just like wanted to avoid Ozu, so I had to make it.
Understandable, to be fair. I get that.
Adam does now too.
I feel that. I feel that. Cool. So obviously we're going to be picking up from the episode we were supposed to record last time out, and we did the Peter Shulkin special instead. So we are going to jump into some Nic Cage films. Before we do so, anyone have anything want to sort of talk about? Anything we watched recently or anything like that? Get out of the way early.
Let me see. I gotta pull up my litter box. I've halfway forgotten what I've watched.
Just while you're looking that up, so I want to say this is a weird thing to talk about now because it's been around for a while, but we finally caved and got a Costco membership. Holy cow, that place is amazing. I never been in one before. Adam, do you have Costco's in Ireland?
No, but I'm familiar with the concept. It's just basically like huge industrial size stores where you buy things in bulk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Carrefour is fairly popular in Europe. Do you have Carrefours?
No, we have an Irish equivalent would be what's called Musgraves.
Okay.
It's where like businesses go and like buy all their stuff that they would then sell in their store. So you have to have like a business license to get in there, but
Okay,
there
okay.
is other ways of doing. There is other ways of getting memberships as well. I have a membership for that. I don't think it's quite the same as Costco, but I'm familiar with the concept of Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah, Costco is like big Walmart. It's like Sam's. We have Sam's Club too, which is literally big Walmart. But yeah, you don't have to have a business. You don't get taxed if you have a business membership.
Mm. Yeah, it's $60 for the year. Um, and but you save a lot. Like we got probably 3 weeks worth of meat products for like, half the cost we get otherwise. But anyways, yeah, Costco is sneaky amazing. Maybe not sneaky. Everybody else knows about it, but we're in now.
We're not sponsored by Costco, by the way. This is not hashtag ad.
This
If they
episode
want
is
to though and give us free stuff, that's fine.
yeah. They have $1.50 hot dogs now that are huge. That's kind of one of their things. They've always had like dollar hot dogs, and people were pissed when they had to raise it to $1.50 a couple years back. But anyways, yeah. Did you find what you've been watching, Zach? Have you had time to watch much?
I have just because I do a lot of sitting around lately. Honestly, one of the things I had a goal of this year versus like the last couple is I think I kind of figured out that I got this weird little bit of dopamine, like seeing that number raise in my Letterboxd account. And then I was like, I don't do half of the hobbies I used to have anymore. So I've made a point this year that I've been doing more things. I'm doing more reading. I've been doing playing more games, things such as that. And so I haven't watched as many movies, still a decent amount. But I guess if I was going to shout out anything, I totally legally and did not in any way circumnavigate the fact that this movie has not released yet. I watched a movie called Red Rooms, which is really, really good. I would say of 2024 releases, this is one that I actually expect to kind of stay in my top 10. It's a Quebec film about this woman who's played by what's her name? Juliette Go- Gorelpi. I don't know. People seem to know who she is. She's in a bunch of movies I've never heard of, but people seem to like her. But basically, there's this major murder trial going on with this guy, and he's being accused of murdering three teenage girls in red rooms on the dark web. And so she goes every day to watch. She obviously has a lot of computer skills, so she's seen these red room tapes and things like that. And she befriends a girl who is there who believes he's innocent and all this other stuff. And I won't give anything away because I definitely think people should go see it. It has one of the most shocking parts in a movie I've seen in a long time. It's nothing gory or anything like that. They're very tasteful about how they like talk about this kind of thing. It's just a character does a certain event, and it just floored me. And it is so good. I really hope when it gets a little bit wider of a release, people go see it because it's really, really good.
This, yeah, I think remember when you posted on our Discord about this. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, I was very, very surprised by how good it was. I'm in a horror Discord server, so it was kind of going around there, and we were just everyone there has gave it high praise, and I agree. I agree with that. It's very good. It was very surprising because I hadn't heard anything about it.
Interesting. I was watching the Grudge that came out here. It was originally called Ju-on the
Yeah,
Curse,
yeah.
and it was these two SOV movies that were shot, and they got popular, and they made sort of a um, Ju-on the Grudge in Japanese and then English. Anyways, so I was listen. They're really really good. The first two, especially the SOV ones, very creepy, very scary, and I was listening to the commentary on them. And the guy's release strategy when they came out was to put it on Pirate Bay.
And
And
I mean, there is a market there. Like, as funny as
yeah,
that is, yeah,
and he said that especially with the fact that it was this sort of like not quite a found footage movie, but it kind of had that vibe
yeah.
of like just sneaking and watching people's homes, and like the fact that you'd find that pirated, he said added to the creepiness. Um, and it took off. It took off to the point where it was getting like millions of illegal downloads, and then even started to get a small distribution. Anyways, then led to Sarah Michelle Gellar or whoever it was playing it. So it worked for him. But
I mean, I do kind of think about that now that you mention it. Like, obviously, it's too early for this, but imagine if, like, instead of being showed at Sundance, Blair Witch Project is like found on a torrent site. Like, that would probably like give more to the credence of it, quote unquote, being real,
right,
just
right,
because it wasn't shown. Like, obviously, I mean, when people actually knew, of course, people didn't know as much back then about that kind of thing, but obviously, you can look back and say that movie was shown at Sundance, and it's definitely not a snuff film. Like,
yeah, right,
we
right,
didn't
right.
just watch three teens get brutally murdered in the woods or disappear in the woods, I should say. But yeah,
Uh-huh,
so
uh-huh.
it's definitely an interesting strategy, especially for horror and stuff.
Yeah, right. Um, I don't know if there's a couple things I want to highlight, but anything else for you? Have you been collecting it all?
Um, well, I've been getting some Second Sight in. I got High Tension from Second Sight. I just got it in, and then this week I should get Inside because Second Sight is just going to take all my money this year because they got Green Room and Possessor coming out next year. I got Frankenstein, the Monster from Hell coming in. I have the Mummy, the Hammer one coming in, and I have Paranormal Activity, all from Second Sight coming in this week because I was able to. Paying for is the worst thing that could have happened to me because I justify way too much shit because I can just pay it in for.
Awesome. There's a bunch of stuff I've been watching. I just want to highlight. So Justin La Liberty, we've had on the show. He works at Vinegar Syndrome. He started OCN or helped start OCN, and now he has a new pet project called Cinematograph, which has two releases: Little Darlings in Red Rock West. So Red Rock West. That's a tongue twister. Has some parallels to what we're talking about today because it's Nic Cage and Dennis Hopper and Laura Flynn Boyle. It's a noir from the 90s.
Was it a very early Nick Cage? I know it wasn't his first, but that was like really early for his career too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 93. I don't know exactly when he got started, but I feel like he was doing something in the late 80s too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the Coen
Yeah,
brothers,
that Moon. What was that?
yeah,
Moonstruck. That was like
Moonstruck,
87 or 86 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yeah. But still, you're right, early Nick Cage. But the cool thing about these releases, though, so cinematograph, I'm sure I'm not saying it exactly right. I don't, it's a made up word, I think, or at least it's not a word I'm familiar with. But um, they come in like a hard slip case, like Vinegar Syndrome does, but then inside, instead of a like a typical case, is a media book. And the media book is like this felt kind of like very nice material, and it very much looks like a book. So I know that people can't see this, but I'm gonna turn on my camera just so y'all can see it. So it sits like this is the
Ooh,
media book inside the. It's so simple and
so
so
clean.
nice,
Yeah.
so clean, just gray with a little bit of writing. And then Little Darlings, the other one is the exact same. It's just the only difference is it's pink font here, and then a pink eye on the side. But otherwise, there's nothing at all in the spine. It's just beautiful. I love these releases. I think they might honestly be my favorite of the packaging designs that Vinegar Syndrome like toys with. Um, they're just beautiful. Like they really look like collector's editions. Um, so I'm excited to start there. And I'll collect all of those for the time being. I'm even debating taking the slipcase off and just having them sit on the shelf as books. But I don't know. I wouldn't want it to get dirty. Well, I'll see. I'm figuring it out. The only other thing, just in 10 seconds, I want to call out is have y'all ever seen the Takashi Kitano or the Beat Takeshi movies that came out in Japan before he got famous, I guess, internationally for Battle Royale as the
No.
teacher. So there, he directed at least three that got very famous. He's directed more than that, but one of them was Boiling Point, one was Violent Cop, and then one was Hanabi. Have y'all seen any of those?
Boiling Point, that actually is that the one that got a second site release? I think it did. Or it's another
Possibly.
movie called Boiling Point. I can't remember. Oh, there is another movie called Boiling Point.
Okay.
That's a lie.
Well,
But no,
fair
I've not
warning.
seen this one.
Fair warning. This is going to be my week 1 week because these movies are amazing. Um, just funny, like dark comedy, funny, kind of violent, and sometimes very violent, but like only in spurts. Um, just he was a comedian his whole career. He had something called Beat Takeshi's Castle. It's like this kind of really fever dream kind of Japan. You know what? Some of these shows that are on TV in Japan, they get to just you're just like, what is happening? Like
Takashi's Castle is awesome.
you okay? You've seen it, yeah,
Takashi's Castle is so good.
yeah.
What a great
Uh,
way to spend 30 minutes growing up watching Takashi's Castle.
It was great, right? Um, and anyway, but he has a more serious sort of film career as well. Um, So, fair warning, we'll be watching these because Film Movement, which is a new partner label for OCN, but a company that's been around for years, has those releases to those in North America, I guess. So I just got three of those in.
So I just want to
Oh,
note, I've been looking at the wrong movie. I was like, he has not mentioned Wesley Snipes or Dennis Hopper or Viggo Mortensen in this movie. There are three movies called Boiling Point that have all come out since 1990.
I mean, it's a catchy title, I guess, as far as, things tipping over. Um, the other thing, sorry, I said last thing, but I have to mention Indonesian movies are starting to come out, which I'm so pumped about. So, Mando Macabro has been the main place to get Indonesian movies. And there's not that a lot of them that have come out, but they had this crazy horror scene in the 70s and 80s where there's just really wacky movies coming out. Um, and Vinegar Syndrome on their main line just put out Suntet 1 and 2, and I just got it in. So I'm going to be watching that over the next day or two and talking about it. So geeked about that. So
Cool.
that's it. That's it for me. Yeah. What about you, Adam?
Mine is short and sweet, kind of similar to Zach. I'm kind of taking a more hands-off approach to my film watching this year. Um, I'm trying to do more things, read more, play more games, just kind of do more stuff because last few years I've just been getting very burnt out watching stuff, and I found myself just watching things just for the sake of watching stuff, which was making me not like stuff as much, I guess. So since the turn of the year, I've only watched one film that wasn't for this podcast, and that was Targets,
That's
the
such a good movie.
Peter
I love that
Bogdanovich.
movie.
So good. Holy crap, what a great film. That was so, so good. Very kind of like proto Tarantino. Uh, like I can definitely tell Tarantino would love this film. I didn't read if he was like influenced by it, but I wouldn't be surprised. Looks great. Boris Karloff's awesome. Yeah, just a really, really, really great film. Really fun, great script. Literally don't really have anything bad to say about it at all. Um, So that's the only thing I've watched that wasn't for the podcast. I picked up a couple of things. Well, yeah, I picked up a couple of things. Obviously, my Radiant stuff has been coming in, but I talked about that last time. Um, I picked up on the back of watching Targets. I picked up a film called The Criminal Code, which is featured in Targets. It's like so it like I don't know if you've seen Targets, Chris. Obviously, I know you have, Zach. There's kind of two films that were real Boris Karloff films that feature in Targets. I can't remember one of them. It has Jack Nicholson in it. It's the
Yeah, I
film.
haven't
Oh,
seen
That's
it.
that
the
Spanish
film.
movie. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I could look it up while you're doing that because I know what the movie
Yeah,
is.
but I didn't buy that one. There's another one at a later point during the film where Boris Karloff's character is watching one of his old films on TV in his hotel, and that's called The Criminal Code. Indicator released that. Um, it was done by, I think it was Howard Hawks. I'm just grabbing the Blu-ray now off my shelf. Yeah, it was Howard Hawks. It's like this kind of prison movie called The Criminal Code. So I picked that up because Indicator did a release of it. I bought it off Amazon, and Amazon were having the sale of two for £15 on Indicator releases. So I also picked up the Randolph Scott Western, The Tall T, um, which I know Criterion did a box set of those Westerns recently. Indicator also had a box set of it, but it's out of print for a good while now. So they've kind of released all the movies individually. So those are the only two pickups I've had recently as well.
It was The Terror.
The Terror, that's it. Yeah, that's the one with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
Um,
and the only reason I knew that is because I watched a guy buy the Spanish rights to that movie. He doesn't own the rights, but he owns the Spanish rights just because he could. So I remembered
okay.
it from that more than I did Targets. But yeah,
Okay. I'm just looking up to
That
see if it even has a Blu-ray release. I didn't even check. I was more intrigued by the Criminal Code. I would be surprised if Terror doesn't have some kind of release by somebody.
it's funny how everything old is kind of new again. That was a Targets was a movie made critiquing gun violence, right, in America back in the 60s, 70s
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of
Yeah.
UT
Charles
shooting.
Whitman, the University
Yeah,
of Texas shooter.
yeah.
Which,
So
speaking of him, because he influenced a lot at that time. Adam, if you haven't watched it, I would recommend God Told Me to. Larry Cohen
oof.
film. It is
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, I've heard that's really good. I think it came up at one point during the film club. I don't know if it was an expiring pick or something, or
Yeah.
somebody just
Yeah,
recommended it
someone
in
listed it
Discord.
once, you're right.
It was on the channel at some point, and I heard it's very good. I just never got around to watching it, and then it expired, I think. But yeah, I'll need to get around to seeing it eventually.
Yeah, I would say it'd be a good double feature with Targets, though. It's more, Chris, you've seen it, right? It's a little bit more existential, I guess.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, 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 yeah.
it gets wild.
Yeah, Larry Cohen didn't mind. I mean, Bone, and then God Told Me to. He was out there a little bit, but
It looks like it's
um,
streaming for free on YouTube, so
There
it
you go.
should be easy enough to
Yeah.
watch.
definitely worth a watch, though. It's awesome.
Perfect. We ready to get all caged up?
Yeah. Let me get some stuff up so I can give people the very complex plot of all three of these films. Um, since I wasn't here to introduce them, I guess I'll kind of re-explain. I know it's been a while for some who've done it. So the reason I chose these films wasn't necessarily just because I wanted an excuse to watch Nic Cage film, though that was like 80% of it. Uh, so I was kind of curious. I forgot what me and my girlfriend were watching, but I was like, what you start looking at like choices actors make after they finally win their Academy Award or whatever. And I was like, I feel like Nic Cage would have a weird one. And I was absolutely correct. So in 95, he won his Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, which is such a depressing movie.
Yeah.
And so I kind of get like his next three films from there are 96, he played in The Rock. In 90, I think in 96, he also played in Con Air. It was either 96 or 97. And then the year after that, he played in Face Off. And I just think that is absolutely perfect for him as an actor to
Yeah.
sit there and do this super serious role where, obviously it got a lot of prestige, it had a lot of artistry, and which all these films do too. We'll get into that. But then he's like, okay, I'm going to just go play in 90s action movies for a while and do great in all of them. So I figured we'll start with each one. We'll start with in chronological order. So we'll start with The Rock. And honestly, why is there such a long description for this movie? Okay, I'm just going to give the log line for the Rock.
It's
Um,
complex film, Zach.
yeah, of course, of course. Ed Harris takes over Alcatraz, and they hire Sean Connery, who escaped a bunch of prisons, and Nic Cage, who knows bioengineering, to come stop them from killing a bunch of people. That is the movie. Because I will read how long this is, and you can tell me how overly long this is. FBI chemical warfare expert Stanley Goodspeed is sent on an urgent mission with the former British spy John Patrick Mason to stop General Francis X. Hummel from launching chemical weapons on Alcatraz Island into San Francisco. General Hummel demands $100 million in war reparations to be paid to the families of the slain servicemen who died on a covert operation. After their SEAL team is wiped out, Stanley and John deal with the soldiers on their own. That's what Letterboxd puts.
Honestly, I think that's perfect because I think like well, what you said was great, but I think that nuance there of why Ed Harris is doing what he's doing, I think that's very important to the film, and because there is an interesting dynamic here where it's like I kind of get it, with what Ed Harris is doing. It's like I kind of get it. It makes him. It's not just like he's not just like bad guy number one kind of thing. He actually has like pretty good motivations.
Yeah, I mean he does, and I think that's good. It's just like when I guess it's for me when I see like these action movies, I like the log line approach. Like
Yeah.
not to the extent of what is Snakes on a Plane about. It's exactly what it's about, but just
Snakes on
like
a fucking plane.
yeah, it's like this. This is the high concept log line that you can just come up with, and
So you're
we'll make a
telling me
movie
when you're
around it.
so when you're describing snakes on a plane, you're not telling people that the snakes are put on the plane by a kingpin who's trying to take out a star witness to the court case is going to bring him down.
Uh,
You don't mention that when you talk about snakes on a plane.
um, though I obviously I should because I feel like it would give it more nuance. But I guess we should figure out where The Rock is. And you know what? I'm glad we're choosing The Rock because, we were recently talking about getting back to our roots and choosing more Criterion films. And The Rock is perfect. It's in the Criterion collection.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
So, Chris, where are we at with The Rock?
And I think it's in the Criterion collection mostly on the back of Nic Cage, honestly. Like everybody else kind of does well in this movie, but he makes this movie. Let's I kind of want to grade on a curve with these because these movies aren't going to get the love of the same people that like Jean Dillman. But as it sits today, The Rock is the 3,909th best movie of all time.
That's too low.
Too low.
Too low.
I will say, let's see. Well, before I get into that, so right around this is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Michael Mann's Collateral.
Well, we already
Ozu's
talked about Collateral's too low, too.
Collateral's too low as well. 100% agree. Ozu's A Story of Floating Weeds. Miyazaki's Castle of Cagliostero. So there's good movies around The Rock. It's crazy that you can get to 3,900 and still have Robert Altman, Nagisa Oshima, Ava DuVernay, Werner Herzog, Brian De Palma, Mario Bava, like all these people right around. So, he's in good company. My little synopsis, well, there's a lot to unpack here, but I really hate Michael Bay and I really love Nic Cage. This movie was totally made, I think, by like Nic Cage knows how to read this dialogue and like knows how to play this role so well. I just want to see every Michael Bay movie played with Nic Cage. I think I would reevaluate all of them.
Well, there is an interesting like pedigree with this movie. When I was looking it up last night, in this movie you have two Oscar winner actors with
Uh-huh.
Nic Cage, who'd won the year before. You have Sean Connery, who won at 87 for Untouchables. Ed Harris was nominated for Apollo 13 the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Hans Zimmer had won 2 years before that for Lion King for Best Composer. The guy who edited the film had been nominated the back-to-back years prior to this for Seven, and there was another
Nice.
movie in there that he edited.
Nice.
And then, of course, it has Tony Todd in it. So that is just an amazing pedigree all the way down. of
And
just like
Michael Bain.
these like yeah. And I mean, this is early Michael Bay. This is like my favorite era of Michael Bay because he had just made Bad Boys. So
I,
this is
I
peak Michael Bay.
I think you're right. Like Bad Boys and this, where he was on a trajectory to be such an interesting director, right?
And I think he still
Um,
is. Like I don't like a lot of his recent stuff, but I still think he's interesting. Like he is
yeah.
that, when people talk about auteur, they kind of want to use that means they're good or, or whatever. When isn't necessarily the truth. Michael Bay is distinct. He is everything of
Yes.
what auteur theory talks about. He is
Yeah,
a
it's true.
100%.
distinct
Yeah,
director.
completely agree.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't think that's controversial. I would argue with anybody that disagreed with that. He's an auteur for sure.
Like
Um,
you bowl as an auteur,
Yeah.
it's
exactly.
auteur doesn't always mean good. Um, so with The Rock, right? And I mean this in like the best way. Do not take this wrong, okay? What I'm about to say. Bruno Mattei could make the shit out of this movie with the same budget. If Bruno Mattei was given the budget that Michael Bay would have been given, or Michael Bay would have been given, I think he could have made the exact same movie. It's just, I love it. I really like this
Hell
film in
yeah.
terms of how ridiculous it is. There's just
Yep.
so much shit in here that's just so ridiculous and over the top, and it's just like it is. It's kind of like it's in a parallel world. It's not really like real Earth, if that makes sense. It's like a parallel Earth where things are just like a little bit kitschy and weird. Um, and I think it's all the better for it, because this could have been like a really serious kind of dour, like gritty, action sort of film. But there's just like little bits of things that are just weird and silly that just make it makes it allows the film to be fun. Um, and like if you like pick away moments, even like the car chase, that car chase between Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. It's one of the best car chases ever in film. It's so good. It doesn't need to be there, completely unnecessary, but it's just so good and just makes the film so much fun to watch, which is going to be the common thread throughout all three of these films, I feel. In that, sure, like they're not maybe not high art or whatever, but like they are fun as hell to watch. They are entertaining, which when a lot of time when we talk about art films or whatever on this podcast, we always talk about the merit of the filmmaking or the artistic integrity or whatever, but fun doesn't come up a lot in our conversations, whereas these films are hella fun and hella entertaining.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
and I think this is something I think I've talked about on here is, there's plenty of postmodern stuff I like, but an issue I always have with it is, with a movie like this, I feel like if it was made today, it would be pointing out way more of those ridiculous elements. It wouldn't feel like there's a sincerity, and I think that's what I like about all three of the films we'll talk about. Is this movie is sincere in what it's trying to do. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, but it takes itself seriously enough to, you know, not feel like it's just poking fun at itself.
100%. Yeah, yeah, that's a really distinction. That's a big distinction. 100% agree. It's definitely not like self-referential or anything like that.
I actually think you mentioned about artistry and stuff, but I actually think The Rock is a beautiful film too, like the way it's shot. Um,
Yeah, this is hot off of Bay. Really, I forget who he was, what artist he hung around the most when he did the music videos. But it has that very saturated,
yeah,
feel to it that I think makes a lot of it stand out. Because I mean, you're in a place like Alcatraz, like that could look really muted if
yeah,
you're not careful. It could look really boring, but it never really does. It keeps itself looking interesting.
And I think the set design helps with that as well. Like the whole, pretty much from when they sort of break into Alcatraz, like pretty much until the very end, everything looks interesting. Like I very much doubt the basement and sewer system of Alcatraz looks like something from an Indiana Jones movie or whatever, or Aliens or something. I very much doubt that's what it actually looks like. So I don't know how accurate the depiction is, but it just looks interesting. Like it's everything's sort of visually interesting. Do I really think that they have those Temple of Doom, carts on on tracks? Probably not. I don't know. Um, but it looks cool and it makes the film more interesting to look at because I doubt it would have been very interesting if it was accurate. So I think the set design really helps as well.
It's like that part where Sean Connery has to like roll through the fire. It's like, what is even the purpose of that? Like, why is that here? But it's awesome. And
Yeah.
really, kudos to Sean Connery because sometimes I know he can kind of like he could kind of phone it in at times, which I don't blame him for some of the parts he got. But I really like him in this movie. I think this is like one of his better movies that he did. He seemed to take it pretty seriously for what it was.
Yeah, people don't talk about this a lot, but him and Schwarzenegger are both bodybuilders before they became actors, right? And he did a pretty good job. Like Connery did a pretty good job as an actor.
My
Um,
I was going
Maybe
to
this
say
is
because I know he was, of
sorry.
course, the James Bond thing, which I've never seen his James Bonds. But I did like the line where it's like, I can't remember the exact context, but it's like, oh, he was talking about, this is better because at least he's not like getting gang raped in the shower. He's like, no,
Oh, okay.
that doesn't seem to happen as much. Maybe I've lost my sex appeal.
Yeah, so I was gonna bring this up. That's actually one of the things that I didn't like about this movie. The script has a lot of weird shit in it. Like
It's it,
that.
it,
That
it, it- it's the Michael Bay juvenile stuff. Yeah,
This, yeah, absolutely. This and there's that stereotypical gay character who cuts his hair and stuff, and
yeah,
it's just like, meh, I don't know. In the year of our Lord 2024, this doesn't really sit really
yeah, right.
cool.
No, totally.
It's like, meh, I don't know about this. This is a bit, meh, it's a bit gross or whatever.
yeah, and that's
Uh,
never really changed for Bay. That's one of the things. You even you watch Transformers and stuff like that. You're like, yeah, I mean, I guess he's been kind of honest that when people bring up stuff like that, he's like, I make movies for 13-year-old boys, and I'm
yeah,
like,
that's
I
fair.
guess that's fair, but it might want to age it to the current year. But yeah, in the '90s, it's sadly a little expected.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. Look, it is a product of its time, of course. It's just makes it a little bit gross watching it now. It definitely ages it. Couple of things with Connery that piqued my interest during what we were saying. First thing, this is probably a hot take, but I actually don't really like Sean Connery all that much. I
I like
actually
him
don't
in
think he's.
Dragonheart.
I've never seen Dragonheart. I just don't think he's a very good actor. You know, yeah, I just don't think he's very good. I don't like his line delivery. I don't think he's very naturalistic as an actor. And like when we're watching a Nicolas Cage movie and I'm saying the other guy is not naturalistic, then like I'm fucking saying something, you know. That's that's not great.
I guess that comes from
So
like I feel like Connery. It's kind of like what you were talking about, Chris with Schwarzenegger. They're both trying to be a little bit more natural in some of their delivery. Where Nick Cage has pretty much went on record saying he doesn't naturalistic acting doesn't really interest him all that much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just don't really dig Sean Connery all that much. But one thing I'll say, because it's interesting, is Zach, you brought up James Bond. Do you guys know about the fan theory with this film?
Is it that he's James Bond? I'm just
Is that
guessing.
he's James Bond? Yeah, that it
That's
is
awesome.
that the character he's playing is James Bond, because it ties in with the fan theory that James Bond is a code name. So obviously his real name is whatever it is, John Mason or whatever. And this was his iteration of James Bond who got captured, and in the 007 movies, it basically is like, we will disavow all knowledge of you if you get caught doing shit you shouldn't be doing. And that's essentially what happened here. So um
It's canon for
yeah,
me now.
Yeah, it's
that's the
canon
that's
for
the
me too.
that's the prevailing fan theory that this is Sean Connery's James Bond after he got caught by the US stealing secrets. So
Just as a quick side note, who's the best actor from the Bond films then? It's clearly not
um
Roger Moore.
no. Well, it's Daniel Craig, really, then, isn't it?
I can't. I'd have to
Oh,
put this one out.
Well, like, I'm not talking about just like I'm just talking about as in terms like the best actor, not like the
Oh,
exactly.
best one
oh,
playing
Exactly. Yeah,
not
Bond.
yeah,
the
yeah.
best one who played Bond. Okay, then
Yeah,
yeah, it's
but
definitely Daniel Craig.
definitely Daniel Craig. I don't think it's
Timothy
even
Dalton, it
close.
can't be. It can't. It's definitely not. What's the dude's name? The '90s guy. Pierce
Pierce
Brosnan.
Brosnan.
Okay. Yeah,
No, I
fine.
like Pierce Brosnan, but yeah, Daniel Craig's a better actor.
Yeah, Daniel, hands down, Daniel Craig. He has so much range. A lot of the other guys don't have range at all.
Yeah,
whereas Daniel
but
Craig does have range.
Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan aren't actors as much as they are just kind of like smarmy, like like I don't know. They just have like one thing they do, you know? They kind of have that
Yeah.
little like side smile and kind of deliver lines. Like,
Well, Roger Moore just basically played that role for his whole entire career. Like
yeah, the
before
Saint,
Roger
right?
Moore, yeah, the Saint, exactly. He was the Saint before he was James Bond. It's basically just the same thing,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
that's basically just Roger Moore's entire career is playing
All right,
those
fine.
star
Yeah, no, it's Craig
characters.
for sure. And then
Yeah, not
whoever
even
else is
close.
next, we'll see. But
Which you guys, this is slightly off topic. I won't make us go too tangent. So somebody who hasn't watched the Bond movies. I think one of the things that's made me like turned off to watch even the Daniel Craig ones is because I think Daniel Craig is actually a pretty funny like actor, and they seem so overly serious. Are they as serious as like they try to make them out to be, or is it like
Uh,
just
the more
The Craig
recent
ones are.
ones, yeah, the
yeah? And
Craig
that
ones, they take that whole sort of gritty update approach. The Daniel Craig ones are pretty serious, but like the Sean Connery ones and especially the Roger Moore ones are like so unserious.
yeah, I guess with
Uh,
Daniel Craig, like especially when you see him in like Logan Lucky and Knives Out and stuff, you're like, dude's pretty funny. Like he, they probably should have done a little bit more like that, I guess. But I
yeah,
haven't seen them to be able to
I,
judge them. But
I
yeah,
think
like the
his. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like the Sean Connery one, especially like stuff like Goldfinger and stuff, like the fact that the Bond girl in Goldfinger is called Pussy Galore and stuff like that. And the villains always have these cute little one-liners, like,
Yeah,
there's a famous scene where James Bond is sort of caught, by Goldfinger and he's about to get lasered up the crotch. And he's like, "Do you expect me to talk, Goldfinger?" And Goldfinger's like, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." All very sort of over the top, schlocky. So if you're looking for some unserious stuff, then like the earlier era, the Daniel Craig stuff is definitely more leans into the gritty side of things, especially Casino Royale. That was like really sort of gritty. I haven't seen a lot of the recent ones, so I can't say for sure if they are in the same vein, but like Casino Royale is pretty serious for like a pretty unserious plot on face value.
no, but like I think the early movies tried to match the tone of the books, right? The books are a little more pulpy and um, not funny, but just like kind of light and pulpy, right? And
Yeah,
then
it's unserious stuff. Like it's just light
unserious.
reading.
Yeah, and then Roger Moore, they became almost like Saturday morning cartoons. They have like bumbling Southern sheriffs, which you would hate, Zach. Um,
I do
Uh,
they
hate that in movies.
Live and Let Die. Live and
yeah,
Let Die is the one to watch for that shit. I really like Live and Let Die, and it's the best Bond song is Live and Let Die.
it's a
But
good song.
Jesus, like if you want a great example of like just as you said, Saturday morning cartoon nonsense, Live and Let Die
Yeah,
is the one.
and then George Lazenby was very serious, but he only was one. And then Daltons were probably closer to, I think, Sean Connery in terms of tone. That not overly funny and but not overly serious. And then Brosnan sort of was just, I don't know.
The
I don't even
Brosnan
know what.
stuff is kind of similar to like these sort of Nick Cage films we're talking about
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
moment, just
yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of that like mid 90s, early 2000s kind of like sort of sheen, stylish, but like pretty unserious with cool gadgets and shit.
That's
Uh,
exactly the best way to say it.
so
Yeah.
I suppose if you like this kind of era of filmmaking, then maybe the Brosnan ones wouldn't be a bad one to go, like especially like GoldenEye and stuff like that.
And then they had Sam Mendes come and direct one with Daniel Craig. So it's like,
He did
Yeah,
a few of them, didn't he?
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
he
he only
did
did
So
one.
too.
so it's like, Academy Award winning director
Uh,
all of a sudden making a Bond movie. And
well, that is
anyways,
like post like Dark Knight, right? I guess that's when we get into kind of the what you were talking about, Adam, like the gritty
Uh,
era.
well, Casino Royale, funnily enough, was actually before the Dark Knight. I was about to say that. I
Interesting.
was about to say it was the Dark Knight stuff, but it was actually Casino Royale. I'm just remembering. I remember this in terms of like when I went to see this when I was in school, and I'm pretty sure I saw Casino Royale when I was in sixth class, which would be sixth grade for you guys. Whereas the Dark Knight came out, I think, when I was
Oh
in
wait, yeah,
'08. So that would have
yeah.
been, yeah, it would have been like going into, I suppose, what you guys would call eighth grade at that stage that summer. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Casino Royale is 2006 or maybe 2007.
Wow, yeah. I guess I always like thought about like when people talked about it, I was like, oh, they did the Dark Knight thing, but I guess Dark Knight did
Yeah,
the Casino Royale thing.
yeah, probably.
yeah.
Anyway,
But
back to The
yeah,
Rock.
Yeah, The
exactly.
Rock, The Rock.
I
Um,
mean, the thing that I think is interesting about Nick Cage coming off of Leaving Las Vegas Was that Mike Figgis who did that?
I believe so. I
Anyways,
haven't seen that movie in years.
yeah, yeah. Anyways,
I
but
should
then
have
he
watched it before this, but it didn't seem to fit the tone of what was going on.
no, but then he goes and works with Michael Bay, and then he works with Face Off with
Uh,
John Woo, and then
And then Simon West is in between. Yeah.
Simon West. So like he has these, very like accomplished, very stylistic directors that he works with. And I just we'll get into all that with the other ones, but I just think like when Nick Cage plays mm, big, I'm all in. Like I think he does big better than anybody in history, or as well as anybody in history.
And especially when he's tied to the right director. I think there are
Hmm.
times where you see this a lot, especially more recently, where these directors kind of want Nick Cage because he can do like the big thing when he can do a whole lot more than that. And I think that's what makes him interesting as an actor is when you tie him with the right director. He's like, okay, we're going to let you kind of do your thing, but they also know how to like restrain him to like hold back so that those moments mean more. And I think I think especially early in his career, they did it wasn't as known. So that when those moments came, they meant more.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Even going back to Coen Brothers movie though, um,
Raising
the
Arizona, yeah.
thank you, Raising Arizona. I mean that movie, he's talking about Saturday morning cartoons. That movie is so over the top, right? Crazy and zany, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
so
but he's very monotone in that one. That's kind of the funny thing. Like he's almost restraining himself, even though he's still kind of playing the same sort of thing, where he has like these over the top moments, but in a very like monotoned
yeah, that's true.
structure.
That's true. He's not the one that's big. That movie's just big, right?
Yeah,
That whole
yeah,
movie is like the last 10 minutes of It's a Wild, 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 Wild World or whatever what's that old car racing movie that got remade as Rat Race?
yeah. It's like a ton of Mad
Oh,
World is
it's a Mad,
basically
Mad, 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 Mad World. That's what I'm
yeah.
thinking of. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the whole Raising Arizona is the whole like movie just on the last 10 minutes of that. Um,
Which I do think the evolution of these movies is interesting. Talking about Nick Cage because I think this one is the one where this feels much more like an ensemble piece rather than
mm,
like a straight vehicle for him, and probably because he was signed or maybe even acted in part of this movie before leaving Las Vegas, even like released.
true.
Mm.
But it's interesting. We'll get into Con Air that he is definitely the main character in Con Air, but you have tons of other great actors in there, and then you have really Face Off, which is just really a John Travolta and Nick Cage like vehicle. Where this one, I guess Connery is the main actor here, right? Like that,
Yeah, even on the
it's more of
poster,
an
Connery
ensemble,
is
but yeah,
yeah, Connery's front and center on the poster.
yeah,
And it's funny you say that about Con Air. I felt Con Air was much more of an ensemble film. Um, but we'll get into that when we talk about Con Air, I guess.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
kind of
It's
felt the opposite.
I guess on this one because they spend so much time, like they spend a lot of time here with like Ed Harris and stuff. Because obviously he, like you talked about, there is a lot of like going on. Like he's not just some mustache twirling villain of
Yeah,
just
for
like
sure.
yeah,
Like it's one of the best. Like I'm a really big fan of Ed Harris. I think he's fantastic. I love when he shows up and stuff. I think he's probably like one of the sort of more underrated, just in terms of like general kind of critical appeal. He doesn't get shouted out a lot. He kind of like stands on that sort of precipice between character actor and like actual A-lister, if you get what I mean.
yeah. I agree. I
Um,
agree.
People who know movies know Ed Harris, but like if I showed someone on a random person on the street a picture of Ed Harris, they go, "Oh, it's that guy from that thing." They might not know his actual name, that kind of way. Ed Harris is fantastic. I think he's a brilliant actor. So it obviously helps when you have someone who's a great actor playing this kind of role. But I love that he's not that kind of just generic villain A who's just trying to take over the world or get a $1 billion or whatever. He has real motivations. He has a plan, and like as we find out kind of towards the back end of the film, you know, he's not necessarily really out here to hurt people.
Right.
He's just wanting to do what he feels is right for fallen soldiers and their families. It's like it's pretty like in a way it's kind of noble what he's doing. He's essentially committing like certainly career suicide and potentially real life suicide, in doing this, but like he has pretty noble reasons to do it. It's almost kind of like close to martyrdom, really. No, he's
Well, it's like
still,
that. He has that line where he says, like Adams and Washington and Jefferson were all traitors, and now they're
yeah,
Yeah,
patriots, and so that sort of
exactly.
thing.
exactly, exactly. So he's very, 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 very good character. It's a great character. It's very well written. The script in general, I think, is just really good in terms of how they balance everything, all the different nuances and stuff like that. And taking this route with this villain, really elevates the film, just being another kind of generic action film where the guys go in and try and shoot the generic bad guy who's trying to blow up a city. It's just like that's boring. That's been done a million times before and after, and will be again till the end of time. So having someone like this where the audience is kind of thinking, I get it. I do kind of get it. Um,
Well,
it's
that's
it's just
what
an
you're
interesting
talking about. It's
dynamic.
almost like today we see like the comic book Sky Beam going to destroy everything. That was like blowing up the whole city was like the '90s version of that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Even the Batman movies, right? There was a lot of love for blowing up cities in the 90s.
Yeah, and I don't. It's interesting if like how much 9/11 played a part in like how we depict that now, because I feel like that may have been why they moved away from that for a while.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, in the '90s they loved doing that thing. It's like when and I'm so and Chris, I have been so proud of you through this that I'm gonna ruin it by doing this. You haven't called Michael Bay James Cameron once, so I'm gonna bring up James Cameron. But it's
I
like
was
when
gonna
he
do it
made
earlier.
when
I was gonna say that this is the only James Cameron film in the Criterion Collection.
Michael Bay has two movies in the Criterion Collection. That's honestly, I love it. I think it's hilarious. But he talked about in, like True Lies. They had full plans to make a second one, and they said he was like, you know what, terrorism just isn't as funny anymore. So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
make
yeah.
Yeah,
it.
it's true. It's true. And then we were kind of bent over the head a little bit with this with 24, the Kiefer Sutherland
Oh yeah, yeah.
series. Like every 6 hours in that series, somebody was letting off a nuke in Los Angeles, and it's just like, okay.
And there's like four presidents who get assassinated.
Yeah, exactly. It is like when you like I could not like I used to watch that when it came out every week and it was fine, but I could not. I don't think I'd be able to binge watch that series. It would just be constant misery. Uh,
I'll
if I
have to
was to
send you a
try and
video.
binge
This is
watch
I'll send it
24.
to you later. But it's a whole thing about how miserable of a world 24 is, and it's hysterical. It goes through like stats and everything. But I'll send it to you.
Um, so yeah, no, I intentionally have not made my James Cameron joke since this is a good Michael Bay movie. I like this better than I like most James Cameron movies, to be honest. But there's two things I want to say quickly here is we kind of get close to the end on The Rock. So on the 1% chance that my former sales boss Spencer is listening to the podcast, I want to tell a story which I just think is hilarious and it's a pretty good example of like what you would expect to see in a movie about a salesperson. So at the job, I met him at a startup. We were doing AI technology, but before that, he worked for a bigger company and he used to take his clients out for very extravagant parties and stuff. They had big budgets. My favorite story from him is there was a big deal he was trying to get, or maybe it was for a friend of his that was having a big, I can't remember exactly the reason, but he rented Alcatraz for a party, and the party was so basically extravagant that they shut down the ability to rent Alcatraz out for parties anymore.
Jesus.
So he had the last private party at Alcatraz that he paid for and sponsored, and he brought in a DJ, and he was saying it was crazy because they had all these weird rules about like what could and couldn't come onto the island, and so he had to like basically this really famous DJ, like someone like Marshmallow or whatever that guy is, one of the, somebody that big. They had to just bring him out on like a passenger boat, just like with everybody else. There was no special trip boats going out there and stuff, no private planes, any of that stuff. So, um, anyways, that was a wild story. But the other one is there's some fan questions that I thought were pretty funny, talking about going next level into a movie. So there's five. This was posted 5 months ago on Reddit. This is why I love Reddit. Someone said The Rock's unresolved mysteries, and there's five of them, okay? Number one, there were 15 renegade Marines, Hummel himself included. If they demanded $100 million, 83 of which would go to the families of Marines who died under Hummel's command on Black Ops, 15 million to them, where would the remaining $2 million go? Okay, that's one.
You got to pay taxes. You can't screw the IRS.
I
Oh,
assumed it was to maybe pay like just business expenses, buying all the gear and the tack and everything they would have needed, the weapons.
fair enough. So that's not an unresolved mystery. Taxes would be way more than 2 million on 100 million, right? If you're
I'm
gonna go
poor,
that,
Chris. I don't know how much that would be.
it'd be a lot. I mean, you would probably get into tax sheltering at that point, but if you actually paid taxes, it'd be like 40 million, probably 45. Number two, I've made some calculations, and there's no way a couple of Bell UH-1 Iroquois would have been enough to bring so much stuff to Alcatraz. 15 missiles, 3 launchers, food and beverage for 2 days, maybe some food for the hostages, firearms, ammo, explosives, computers, blah, 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 blah. They would need a Chinook to carry all that. So there you go, Michael Bay. Take that.
He had Candyman on his team. I don't think realism was too much of a concern.
Also, they're just like highly trained op marines. I'm pretty sure they could probably are trained to go days without food and water if they needed to.
Ooh, good point. Good point. Yeah, or just like a bar or something, right? We'll last them through.
I mean,
And
hell, they
like
got to serve lunch at this place, right?
yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say, yeah, they like it does tours. I'm sure there's probably food stalls. There's definitely running water, I guess, because they'd have to have running water at the place. So
Yeah.
we're gonna
Let's.
disprove this whole Reddit post before the end of this.
Yeah, the other ones are quick. So Hummel and his men were planning to reach a non-extradition treaty country. Unless they were planning to land in some country's consulate, it would have been impossible, as no helicopter has flight range long enough to reach Cuba or Peru. Hell, most wouldn't even be able to make it out of California from Alcatraz, as they've already spent some fuel flying there. So where are they going to go?
well, they could have been going to some airfield and hopped on a plane like in Con Air.
I was about to say they could have just put the tracker on a different plane and gone wherever they
Are we
wanted
gonna get
to.
into the theory that Good Speed is actually just his character in Con Air too? Like they're the same character.
Yeah.
Let's see. Was Hummel planning to surrender to the authorities in case of success or failure? His speech during the mutiny of Fry and Darrow indicates that he wanted to surrender. I don't think that's true. I don't get the sense he wanted to surrender at all.
No.
I don't know. I think he would have handed himself in once everything got sorted. I don't think he would have ran. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy who would skulk away to Cuba or whatever. I think he would have handed himself in once the mission was completed.
Okay. I don't know. I just had a feeling that he was like right on the edge of insane though, right? Like he was doing it all for good reasons, but he was like right on the edge of kind of like losing it, right? Like cracking. Anyways. And then the other one said we found out there was another passageway leading to the morgue. So did he intentionally lead the SEAL team to the shower room in hopes that the renegade Marines would kill them all? Nah. I don't think that's possible. Saying that if everybody else died, then he would get a chance to escape. I don't think that doesn't feel like an unresolved mystery to me. I don't think that's how that went down.
No, I don't see that either.
All right, well, debunked. All five
Yeah.
debunked.
Yeah, you'll have to post this episode in the in as a comment.
The only one that carries water is where would the helicopter go? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's fair. I would assume they would have had some kind of sort of place that they would stop on the way to refuel or whatever, similar to Con Air, basically.
Yeah.
That would be my guess anyway. But
Should we get
we
to
can't
Con
say
Air?
for
We've
sure.
mentioned it a lot.
Yeah, let's get to Con Air. Zach, tell us what Con Air is about.
Oh man. Okay, so let's see what Letterbox comes up with this time.
It's
Okay,
not
this
as
one
bad.
isn't too long, thank God. Okay. When the government puts all of its rotten criminal eggs in one airborne basket, it's asking for trouble. Before you can say, pass the barf bag, the crooks control the plane, led by creepy Cyrus the Virus Grissom, watching his every move in the just released Cameron Poe, who'd rather reunite with his family. All right, so the last one was in the 3000s. Now, this one was nominated for 2 Oscars, so it should be higher. So, where are we at, Chris?
Oh, man, it's just going to be disappointing. Um, the positives. It's up. The category that it keeps is Adam Wingard's You're Next,
Okay.
the animation classic, The Great Mouse Detective,
Okay.
The Living End, that movie we did, the kind of experimental film we did for the film club, Kick-Ass, Jules Dessin's Top Copy. So Rolf Bakshi's Wizard, so it keeps good company. Bad news is it's down in 9,061.
9,000.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I swear this list just hates 90s action movies.
No,
I'm
I
convinced.
look, this is why, okay, I wanna say this quickly. This is why I was saying 89 is the best year in film, okay? And I know we're past that, and the whole thing was kind of like half a joke anyways, but here's my point for that, and I want to keep making a point as long as I can. Fun movies should get more credit. Like like Con Air is a fun movie. Like holy cow. From start to end, it's insane and weird and like doesn't quite make sense, but what a hell of a movie.
Yeah, I mean it's and I mean I guess I'll bring this up now because I think it's funny. All of these actors apparently have all said they would come back for Con Air 2, which I'm all for. Please bring
Hell
back
yeah.
Con Air 2. Um, John Malkovich was on a talk show at night, and they were talking. I think it was with Samuel L. Jackson, and they were saying, you guys have never been in a movie together. And Samuel L. Jackson's like, well, it's because John's a serious actor. He doesn't do things like I do. And he's like, if Con Air is a serious movie, I'm an astronaut.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great I hadn't seen this since theaters probably. Um
This was my
I
first time
probably
ever
watch
seeing
this
it.
movie like once a year. I watched it on VHS with my parents when I was a kid, and I think I put it's like a comfort movie for me at this point.
I had never
yeah,
seen it the whole way through. I'd definitely seen the start because that sort of opening scene with Nicolas Cage fighting the dudes in the rain, I had 100% seen that. I knew I'd seen it because before I even sat down to watch the movie, when I thought about Con Air, that was the scene I thought about. So I know I'd seen it, that part, but I definitely hadn't seen it the whole way through. This is my first time watching it. I actually convinced Neve to watch it. I actually didn't need to convince her. Once I told her we were watching it, she was like, "Oh, I'll watch that too." Because she had watched it before with her dad like years ago. So she was like, "Oh, this would be nice to watch this now as well. We'll watch this together." And she she like if I thought I had a tough time with Nick Cage's accent in this movie, every time he opened his mouth, Neve would just be like, "Why is he talking this way?" It's like he's just reading lines off a cue card in a weird accent. He's not like even trying to like inflect or it's just like a weird Alabaman robot. Uh,
Put the money back in the box.
Put the bonnet back in the box. It's like, and it was funny because like what she said. It's funny because McKelty Williamson is in this movie as well, and it was like she was like, "This is like watching Forrest Gump and Bubba." Like on a plane. Uh, just with Nicolas Cage's accent, and obviously McKelty Williamson played Bubba in Forrest Gump. She was like, this is literally just like watching Forrest Gump and Bubba in a plane.
That's awesome.
I mean,
Uh,
come
And
on.
we talked about like I brought up the prestige of like the last movie. This one's got a great cast too. Like it doesn't have like as
so
much
good.
like awards or anything, but I mean you got Nick Cage, John Malkovich, Dave Chappelle's in it.
Ving
Uh,
Rhames,
yeah,
Danny
Danny
Trejo, Steve
Trejo,
Buscemi, a
and
dude
I
from
mean just
Lost.
yeah, there are 3 people from Lost in this
Oh,
movie.
three. Okay, no wonder you like it so much. I recognized Swamp Thing. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Lost. And this is explains so
The guy
much now.
who's over the plane before him is
He looked familiar too, yeah.
yeah, he's the marshal in Lost.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And also Colm Meaney, up Ireland. Paul Meany's in this movie too. So
But the Steve Buscemi's character is the only character that I didn't like, just because
really,
he's so weird. I didn't know what they were trying to do the whole time. No, I mean,
It,
trust me,
we'll
I
talk
liked
about
every.
the end because that is such a wild ending to this movie.
yeah,
Like
insane.
I never know how they want me to feel because like the way they set it up is I should be happy for him, but I'm also like, did this dude murder a bunch of people?
Like 126 people or something crazy.
That one little girl converts him. No, no, but I think it's worth I think it's worth just kind of going through this just a little bit to catch in case people haven't seen this, right? So the basic premise of this is that for some reason they decided it's a good idea to no. Oh, they say why. There's like a giant cargo plane essentially that has retrofitted out seats and stuff, right? And they
Yeah.
transport a bunch of criminals because they need like medical procedures or lawyer courtroom dates or whatever. So they're transporting them across the country. And John Cusack plays the marshal that's sort of like in charge of this mission, right? He keeps talking about how it's his plane. So I guess he's like in charge of this mission. Um, and they think it's a good idea to transport all these criminals across the country. Um, I don't know if this is a real thing. Do you have any sense if this ever
Uh,
happens?
so this sort of happens, but typically, if it's they do the best. I'll get to use some of my expertise here.
Yeah.
Typically, you take a bus. Buses are the safest way for them. If they do have to take a plane, they usually rent out a commercial plane. They don't have like a specialty plane, and yeah, they don't have other people involved. Which I mean, I guess this is smarter than that, but yeah, that just seems like a lot of money to spend. Um, I don't know, especially because you wouldn't really want them to have guns on board. Like the idea of anything with prisoners is if you have it, they have it. So if you have a bunch of shotguns and guns on a plane, you pretty much say you have access to take over this plane.
Right,
Like when I was
right.
working in a jail, the only thing we carried was pepper spray because you can fight through pepper spray.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
And
so
like,
it,
surely, like, I never understood why Nick Cage. I didn't understand why Nick Cage's character is even on there with them. I know he's getting
it's a
like,
layover, is the way they're talking. Like it's a layover,
it's
which is
just so
weird. Like
just silly. Like he's a free man. Like why is he even like? Surely you just buy a ticket for like a cheap airline and go home. Like why would you even want to even risk being on the plane with all of these prisoners? I know his friend is there or whatever, but like it just seems bizarre. Like he's paroled. He's a free man. He doesn't have to be there.
it feels like to me they overcomplicated what could have maybe even been a more interesting character decision to where he has an opportunity to escape because obviously as the audience we don't feel like he did anything that bad. There's people were he was put in a kind of a shitty situation and
Oh, for
defended
sure. Yeah.
himself, and it's like him having that opportunity where he can at least consider escape because we would still understand that from his character, but him actually trying to do the right thing. I feel like that could actually be more interesting than
Yeah.
he's just getting a ride there and he's
Yeah, that
misbehaved.
would have made way more sense. It would have because, like I said, we would have had this character who was probably unfairly even put in prison in the first place. He's there for plot reasons, essentially more than anything else. Because he needs to be the hero, but he also has to be in prison and not be a bad guy. So like, it's hard to put a guy in prison, like unless you're going to completely like Andy Dufresne him, where he was like framed for something. It's hard to put it's hard to have your main character as a prisoner and still also be likable and us want him to succeed, I guess is the best way I
Yeah,
can put it.
yeah.
So they had to come up with a kind of a ridiculous situation where he ended up in prison for like 10 years or 8 years or whatever it was for defending himself and his wife from attackers, which is insane to me.
That judge where he's like, your hands are registered lethal weapons. I'm like, that's an amazing line, and it would
That's
never
so
get used in a
dumb. It was the
courtroom.
stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna just like ignore all of this because this is just getting us to plot. This is like the fluff we need to get to the
Yeah, yeah,
actual plot.
exactly, exactly.
It's not important. I'm not gonna think about it too hard. But yeah, I think I agree though, Zach. Having him as like the opportunity to escape, I think would have been a more interesting nuance for his character. Um, because then you're thinking, oh, he could have escaped and met his family, but he decided to stay. Whereas I know it's kind of the same thing, but I think it adds a slightly more interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, we get to the same place either way, but yeah, it just like it just seems like they overcomplicated something that had a much more simple solution.
The we, we've talked about it, but I just want to call it out explicitly. The writing in this movie is so specific and so over the top, and it's almost artistic, like not autistic, but artistic. It's almost like it's almost good. It's like I can't. I don't want to say this movie is so bad it's good. I don't want to put it in that category. It's like
It
it's
seems like
just
it did exactly what it wanted to do. Like,
it just
I
did it
don't think that,
so well.
yeah. And you got the actors, you have good character actors who understand the assignment, I guess is the best way to put it. Like
Yes,
when you put somebody
exactly.
like John Malkovich, if you were to take this out of his filmography, you couldn't put you'd almost feel weird putting it back in because it's like so
That's true.
different to what he does. And he's so good at it. Like he doesn't it's just like we were talking about with The Rock. Nobody phoned it in. They took this as sincerely, and no matter how ridiculous it got, they just went with it.
Yeah. The writer is an interesting one because he did I think he's an Australian guy, if I'm right. But
For
he
some reason that
did
makes more sense now.
but he did High Fidelity, Gone in 60 Seconds,
Venom.
Kangaroo Jack, then he did Jumanji, Venom, and he's still writing. He did the new Jumanji movie from a few years back. So he's had interesting credits. He did an uncredited revision of Armageddon, Spider-Man, Pain and Gain, which is just one of the worst scripts I've ever read. But maybe that wasn't his fault. But he has an interesting like I don't think anybody talks about Scott Rosenberg, and I don't think his dialogue is natural or anything, but it just all kind of like High Fidelity was strangely a really good movie, and then this one I think somehow works very well for what it is. I don't know, it just clicks. I think it's like if you're gonna make a movie like this, you almost have to just go about as big as this to make it work, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of movies where if one aspect of the film is very serious and taken very seriously, then it makes the rest of it look silly. Whereas if everything is at the same level of ridiculousness, it looks like genius.
And it's like it's picking the right people too. Like one of the things I think would make this movie so much worse, and I'm almost surprised they didn't do it, was I always find John Malkovich fascinating because he plays such asshole characters all the time. But the dude's voice has never been menacing,
No, it's
but
it's,
he
it's
makes it work every time. Like "Welcome to
he
Con
does.
Air" is like such an awesome line the way he delivers it, and I'm like it
Yeah,
shouldn't work, but it makes the movie better.
yeah, he's such a great actor.
When I forgot to do this for the episode, I was gonna make a list of the best quotes of the movie, but I think y'all have already caught most, like a couple of them. Welcome to Con Air is great. Put the bunny back in the box is iconic. Um, I don't know. I just feel like every line was written from the perspective of it being like a one-liner.
Yeah, it does. And you know, and I think another reason it works too is we go back to the sincerity. And my girlfriend's gonna hate me for telling this story. We were watching it last time, and I will not get into my girlfriend's history, but the she has a deadbeat dad, all that other good stuff. So she very much likes that type of thing in movies, like the good father type roles. And we were sitting there watching the end, and there's that part where he's reuniting with his kid, and I look over, it's like, "Are you tearing up?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, because there's like this weird sincerity with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. No,
it's
for
like
sure.
100%
it's
is,
a
yeah.
nice little moment.
Oh, he's a wholesome guy, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
Like there's not an evil bone in his body. It seems like it. He's this trained killer that has what his hands are weapons of mass destruction or whatever.
like he named them like Big Boy and Little Man or something.
Honestly, like it's the physicality of Nick Cage. I want to talk about for just 5 seconds too, because think about The Rock versus Con Air versus um, um, Face Off. Just the physicality of him on screen, the presence is so different, right?
Yeah.
And you get, and this is after Die Hard, where before this we had like Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and then you get like the everyman hero in
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
Bruce Willis, and then I guess we're kind of swinging back the other way.
Oh, I don't even know where he fits in. He's almost more like Lethal Weapon, right? Like Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon, or no, no, because he was very much an everyman.
Yeah, and
Could,
yeah, it's definitely different. But I don't know. Action movies in this era are just kind of interesting anyway because of that, because it's not like big bulky dudes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they're super, super ripped. Like he is ripped as shit in this film. He's very, very muscular in this movie, but not in that
Bodybuilder.
bodybuilder kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not where he
mm.
can't turn around and see somebody kind of thing.
Yeah, or if he has like an itchy back, he's screwed. So
Yeah, I know the 90s though had a lot of that stuff though, right? This is like Dolph Lundgren made a lot of movies and
not as big though. Like a lot of those, like there would have been like the Jean-Claude Van Damme and all them, but like a lot of that stuff would have been like kind of like direct to video, or it wasn't like as big box officey stuff as like Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s movies or Sylvester Stallone, like Rambo and Rocky and stuff. It's not, well, I don't think it was at the same level as of popularity.
yeah, you're probably right. I feel like for me the jump in my head is like late 90s, 2000s is when that totally fell off. But this is kind
Mhm.
of getting into that area anyways,
Yeah,
right?
well, this
Because
is
we're at 90s.
97, right? So
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
we're definitely heading that direction.
Yeah, fair enough. It's hard because I watch so many movies from Vinegar Syndrome. All I see is like, 10% of their movies or something, 20% of their movies are 90s action movies. But it's like with like Billy Banks, or like Cynthia Rothrock, or it's a little bit different than what we're talking about, but um yeah, I don't know, man. This movie's fun. I don't
Yes,
know.
it
I don't
was
know what else to say
fun
about
ride.
it. Just beginning to end.
Fun ride. Do we want to move on to Face Off? Or any
Yeah, I'm
last
good with
thoughts on
that.
Con Air?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let me see. Let me pull it up. See what they come up with on this one. All right, so we're going to get into Face Off. John Woo. We're getting to another auteur, right? So,
Yeah.
an anti-terrorism agent goes under the knife to acquire the likeness of a terrorist and gather details about a bombing plot. When the terrorist escapes custody, he undergoes surgery to look like an agent so he can get close to the agent's family. So we're on the third prison movie. I just want to note that too. Like it's not just Nick Cage. There was a prison thing going on. So where did this one end up, Chris?
All right. So the good news first. The company he keeps is Gus Van Sant, Michelle Haneke, Satyajit Ray, Roman Polanski, Vittorio De Sica, John Ford,
But all those
George
people had shit movies somewhere. I'm afraid it's going to be like next to Van Sant Psycho.
George Lucas. Actually, he's right
That's
ahead
not
of.
comforting.
That's not comforting. Please don't be Attack of the Clones.
Uh, no, but he's up much higher than Con Air. So Face Off comes in at 32-38.
Is that the highest? That's not too far from The Rock, right?
Rock was a little higher, yeah. I
A
think it was
little
like three
higher.
3,000 something, yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, right up there in the 3,000s, which we're finding out is not too bad. There's a Fritz
This is
Lang movie.
where all the fun movies live.
That's right. That's right. Actually, speaking of that, Fritz Lang's Western, Rancho Notorious. Have y'all heard about this?
No.
It's
Yeah,
supposed
it's been on my watch list for so long.
it's supposed to be really like bloody and like crazy and fun, like intense.
Yeah.
Anyways, Face
But it's
Off.
not as good as Clash by Night.
Oh, yeah.
We don't talk about
Uh,
Clash by Night here.
Face Off. The opening 5 minutes to this movie or so, 10 minutes or so.
More like
Probably
20 minutes.
or maybe 20. Probably the
So
favorite thing
long.
I've seen in years. Just Nick Cage being Nick Cage is just hilarious. I was dying.
Can I note that I Nick Cage is great in this movie. I might say John Travolta's better.
I think so too.
Like he's
I
having to
really think
pretend to
he
be
is.
Nick Cage.
Yeah, this is
Like,
what's great. This is what's great. Okay, this is the most fucking ridiculous movie ever, like ever made in terms of like the actual plot semantics. Where I remember like Neve had never heard of this, and even like other people who'd never heard of it, and I describe it to them. I'm like, no, 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 you don't get it. Okay, John Travolta is Nick Cage wearing John Travolta's face. And vice versa. Nick Cage is John Travolta wearing Nick Cage's face. So they gotta act like one another. So it's like, but like at one point you have John Travolta acting like Nick Cage, acting like John Travolta, and vice versa. It's insane. The level of depth and nuance they have to do. It's honestly it's like a tour de force in acting for both of them. I do think John Travolta's better, only because I think John Travolta just plays a great villain. He's really
and
good at
I
playing a
think he has a
villain.
little bit more to do.
Yeah,
Like
he
what you're
probably
talking about, that
does.
whole scenario is wild.
So wild. It's insane. It's just completely batshit. And yeah, I think Travolta does have more to do because his character has to pretend to be the other guy for a lot more of the screen time than Nick Cage has to pretend to be John. Or yeah.
Yeah,
Oh God.
this is gonna
You
get
know
so
what I
confusing.
mean? Yeah, the pretending aspect of it, John Travolta's character has to do. Oh, not John Travolta's character. Oh shit.
Wait, hold on,
God.
hold on. I
John
think this is
Travolta's better. We'll leave it at that.
I think this is important to use their character names. So Sean Archer is the
Okay.
cop, right?
Yes.
And Castor Troy is the criminal,
Yes.
Yes.
right? And one of the things that cracks me up is how much script time is spent on Castor Troy being excited with the face exchange because he gets to bang Sean Archer's wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a significant plot point.
It really. Yeah. It's it's just it's utterly insane. Like I really, really, really appreciate somebody had the balls to say yes to making this movie.
Absolutely.
Because I can't imagine what the boardroom was like when someone decided to do this.
Thank God
Like,
Coke was still popular at this point.
yeah, for sure. We have cocaine to thank for Face Off and Space Jam, and I'm so happy that happened. Thank you, cocaine.
Thanks.
Um,
You heard it here first. More producers need to do Coke. We'll
yeah,
get way better movies.
Hey,
we
this
would.
worked though, right? The movie made
Oh,
250
100%.
million on an $80 million budget. So it was not a massive success, but it wasn't a failure.
No,
Yeah,
and
but
it's
I
a
mean,
cult
it's
classic as
also a
well.
video movie. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
That's
going
right.
into Blockbuster, this thing's. I mean, I remember my parents getting this at Blockbuster and then buying the VHS.
yeah.
That's
And
right.
this was all. It was always. I don't know if about in the States, but like it was always on TV here in
Mhm.
Ireland. Always on TV as like the Sunday movie on like our main kind of broadcaster. It was always like I watched this first on TV just randomly one night, stumbled across it. So it's just one of those movies that kind of I don't know, maybe it's kind of fallen off and I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it as much anymore. But like especially like I remember like in the early 2000s growing up, like Face Off was always talked about. And the poster I'd seen the poster in like the video store and I'd seen the video and the DVD and stuff for it. So maybe it's kind of fallen off a little bit. It needs to be brought back. Cult classic. Face Off is an absolute cult classic, bona fide. The only
And
thing I'll say, it's a little bit too long. It's maybe a little bit. It's nearly 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it is
So
long.
it's a little bit too
And
long.
they do feel like they kind of reiterate, like, because it's a very funny movie, but some of the jokes you're feeling like, yeah, you've kind of done that one already.
Yeah. And it does
But
actually take a while for like the main thing, the main kind of face off aspect of it. That doesn't happen to like over an hour in, I don't think.
Yeah, it's about an hour before they actually switch faces.
Yeah.
wait, but two quick things. One, I was chatting with somebody who's I've never been high before, so I don't know if like I just haven't done it. It's not been a part of my life. I would consider getting high just so that I could watch this movie if it was like a drug that made you giggle a lot. like I think this movie would be amazing, just like slightly high,
This is
I
the
especially
mean,
the
thing,
the,
you don't
the
first
have
plot
to
will
like.
make
be.
more sense.
I watched this movie between gaps when I was working the other day. I had
Yeah.
like an hour
Uh-huh.
time to
Uh-huh.
kind of do some training and stuff. So
Uh-huh.
I like threw it
Uh-huh.
on my laptop beside me, and then on like my break and my lunch I finished it. So like you could be like as straight edge as possible in the middle of your workday and still be like, this film is fucking bananas. Uh,
Uh,
And was this Wu's first movie in America?
no, no,
that's
no,
a
no,
good
no.
question.
I don't think so. But I did want to comment on it. Like this is do y'all have y'all seen Killers or Hard Boiled recently enough to like
Been a long
I've
time
never
because you
seen
can't get
either
them
of them.
anywhere.
Yeah, I haven't seen either just because they're not available, which is weird.
it,
I think a construction company owns the rights or something crazy
oh,
like
really?
that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why they
Um,
haven't been re-released because some weird, it's like whatever way it all got sold years ago, it's owned by a construction company who have no interest in licensing or releasing them. They just happen to own the rights.
well, I mean, I don't know. I saw them in the last year and a half anyways for that Criterion thing that I'm doing where you go through every one or
Yeah.
whatever. And this is a after you get past the first 30 minutes or so, which is just I don't even know what that is. Where Nick Cage is like dressed as a clergyman
That's
Hmm.
amazing.
dancing in a
That's funny.
church choir and like sexually assaulting that teenage girl. I like I don't know. I was dying. Like what I don't know. I was laughing so hard. I don't know what's going on.
Because
But once
you just know if this goes in front of like a board, they're going to be like, you need to cut out most of this movie.
totally. But but once it gets started, this is a John Woo movie. Like he just made no there's no changes. Like the action beats, the amount of explosions, like this is a John Woo movie. Like over the top stylized crazy action and stuff. I don't know if he was known for crazy plots. Like I wouldn't say, some of these movies have like crazy plots, but he does throw random stuff in his movies. Like one of the key plot points in I think it's Hard Boiled. Anyways, one of those two is there's like this baby. The assassin's carrying around like a baby for 20 minutes. And so like he does throw in random stuff to just kind of be extreme and funny. So I don't know. Yeah. This is definitely like the action stuff is a John Woo movie, 100%. The the wacky shit, I don't know. That's the writers, I guess.
Cool.
It's like the start of the movie where like they have that flashback to where Castor Troy like tries to assassinate Sean Archer, but like the kid accidentally ends up getting killed, like the opening scene. And it's just like just like Nicolas Cage lying down on a random hill in the park with a sniper rifle. It's like how has nobody like stumbled across him? Like it's not like he's even hidden in a tree or in a bush. He's just like lying on a hill in the middle of a park. It's
That's so
so
true.
random.
That's so true.
It's like
The
zero thought is put into that stuff, but like it's also that's okay. That's fine. It works.
I know it's
um
always stuff like that that gives it like a charm. Like it's a which can be kind of used as a dirty word, but like I mean, even when you do stupid stuff like that, if everything else around it's working, you're just kind of like, yeah, it just kind of gives it some flavor.
Yeah, for sure. It honestly it does. It works. Like it works because the rest of the film it stays at a consistent level of ridiculousness. It's kind of like with what I was saying with Con Air. If you have one aspect of this that's taken like super seriously, then it makes everything else look stupid in comparison. So if you can keep that level of sort of stylized ridiculousness, if you can keep that consistent throughout, then the film is just going to be fun for the most part. Now, I mentioned this in Discord. I actually got a little bit of anxiety watching it a little bit, just because the main premise is just kind of fucked up that like there's a guy out there pretending to be you, and everyone who knew about it is dead. So like no way of actually proving that you are who you say you are and stuff, and he's gonna go home to your family. It's just icky. It's an icky situation, and it's giving me a bit of anxiety for a little bit. But like the rest of the film. Like once Archer escapes from prison and the sort of main revenge aspect of it kicks off, then it's a lot more fun.
it, yeah, they did that scene well actually, because they show him uh he tricks his brother, he tricks Castor Troy's brother into giving up where the bomb is, right? And
Yeah,
he thinks he's like scot free, and he's like he calls him an idiot or whatever. And
yeah,
then he immediately gets seen by Castor Troy with the face of Sean Archer. So it's like all these things happen at once. He has to figure out what's going on, and then like it's like this moment of like his life just falling apart like instantly, right? And then he's next scene is him in a like a solitary confinement thing in a or like a dungeon thing underground for some reason, where he's getting like a POW prisoner. I don't even know what that was, like a hole in the ground with bars in it. I don't know what that was trying to be. But that scene was done very well. It was very effective, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't, Zach, in answer to your question, so he came to Hollywood right after Hard Boiled and
Okay,
did Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
that's right. I forgot he did that.
Yeah, and then Broken Arrow, and then this, and then Mission Impossible 2.
He was on a roll there for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wonder if he ever went back to China because he was. Then he did Wind Talkers, which was I haven't seen, but supposed to
Which
be
is
pretty
Nick
good.
Cage. Yeah.
And then Paycheck, which is supposed to be pretty good.
Which he had a movie this year. Well, last year I should say now, but he had a movie come out with Joel Kinnaman, I think.
Oh, Silent Night.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it a Christmas movie?
Yes. Apparently, it's a dude trying to get revenge who lost his ability to talk. So it's what you expect.
What's that movie with the guy from The Office, John Krasinski or whatever, where it's like he can't talk with his wife?
Quiet Place.
Yeah,
Hmm?
Fireplace, yeah.
Quiet Place?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Silent Night is like a John Woo's version of Quiet Place.
Um. They. I wouldn't say that, but yeah, in that sense, I think.
He saw that and he was like, what if it was Santa? Oh man, I don't know. How do you really like break apart these movies, right? Like they're just all three. This was a fantastic week, Zach, because all three of these movies I feel like were the same type of film, and they were all so fun to watch.
And I mean, I just thought because it was when I was looking him up, and what really gave me the idea for this, I was like, he really did do The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off right after winning an Oscar, and I just found that hilarious. Like, because at
Respect his
that point,
hustle.
you can kind of do whatever you want. You can stay being like a super serious actor, but I just appreciated that he's like, nah, we're gonna do three high action prison movies.
Yeah. What's his tie to the Coppolas?
He is Francis Ford Coppola's
Nephew,
nephew.
huh?
Nephew. Okay. So like
Yeah,
like sister's son or something,
I think
or
so. Yeah,
or brother's
Yeah,
son or something.
pretty
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I think it's his sister's son.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
he
And
is a
Cage
Nepo
is just
baby.
because he likes Luke Cage as a character, so he puts that name on.
What's y'all's favorite Nick Cage movie?
Ooh,
Mm,
um,
now you're asking.
I'm actually gonna go look. I have a ranking list. That'd be easier.
And that the least surprising thing I've heard all day.
You have a Nick Cage
The Nick
ranked list.
Cage ranked list. Yeah.
I might have to go with Bringing Out the Dead. It'd either be that or Mandy.
Oh wow,
Like,
Mandy, huh?
like if we're talking about like favorite movies that just happen to have Nick Cage in them, then like I guess it'd be like maybe like Into the Spider-Verse or Kick Ass, something like that.
He's good in both of those.
Yeah, like if we
You're
talk about an actual film where like Nick Cage plays an actual main character, then yeah, probably Kick Ass, Face Off, uh, probably
Ki-
those two, Kick Ass, Face Off.
I feel like that's a hot take. You're putting Kick-Ass above all the stuff that he's done in his career.
Well, like I haven't seen a lot of the stuff that like I haven't seen Raising Arizona, I haven't seen
Okay, okay, okay,
Adaptation,
okay.
haven't seen Mandy,
Have you seen
haven't
Vampire's
seen
Kiss?
no, haven't seen
Love
Vampire's
that movie.
Kiss. Like I'm looking through his filmography now, and I haven't seen like a lot of his more sort of more serious stuff.
I was geeking out with someone about Nick Cage last night. I was chatting as I was watching this, and A Vampire's Kiss came up. That movie is just so good.
It is. I always said it's a better American Psycho. That's how I've always felt about that
Oh,
movie.
I like
It does
it.
the
I like
same thing
that.
American Psycho does, but better.
I really like that. Um, yeah. For me, it's adaptation. I just can't. Like that will always be one of I think one of the best scripts I've ever read, and I can't imagine anybody but Nick Cage playing that part. Um, it's just so meta, like that. Every single time you watch that movie, it's like there's like layers and layers and layers, and like so much good discussion that comes out of it. I think
Spike Jones direct that one, or is it Michael Godfrey? Who
that's
directed
a
that?
that's a great question. It's a Charlie Kaufman script, and I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it's Spike
Spike
Jones directed.
Jones. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
pretty sure it's Spike Jones as well.
Kaufman's at its best when Gondry or Jones directs his stuff.
Oh,
So
has to. Yeah,
yeah,
he can't be a director of his own stuff anyways. Yeah, he I don't like to use the word pretentious that much because I think it's overused, but when he's a director, his movies are pretentious.
it was
Like
made, and that word was made for him.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I hate Syndicate New York so much. I hate that movie so
I
much.
Zach, this is one movie we'll agree on. You
I
know,
saw it.
typically, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I saw it a long time ago and didn't really care for it much either. I was going through a kick of watching Philip Seymour Hoffman movies.
The
Didn't care
first
much for
hour
him
and a
either.
half of Synecdoche, New York, I loved, and then the last hour, he just goes on this weird, like intellectual sort of masturbation trip with this like monologue. I was like, what? I hate this so much.
Yeah,
I was so pissed at it, especially because of how much I like the first half or the first part. Like, I think it's a beautiful idea and like really cool design of sets and stuff. Like, great acting. And then I don't know what was going on. I need to watch it again because I hated it so much when I saw it the first time. I don't ever want to see it, but I probably should give it a second chance. And he did the other one like 2 years ago. There was like me, you, or someone like I know. Or
I'm
what was the
thinking of
title?
ending things was like the
I'm
most
thinking
recent
of
one.
ending things. Yeah, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it was. It was I like that one actually. That was
I
okay.
never saw it. I heard mixed reviews. Some people seem to love it, and others,
Yeah,
which I suppose just kind of makes sense with Charlie Kaufman.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. No, I'm more in the like it camp on that. But Synecdoche, New York was a disaster.
the best way to sum up Charlie Kaufman is a line from Community that Shirley says, where she's like, "I like Charlie Kaufman, but damn, some of us got work in the morning." So,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
cool. Any final thoughts on Face Off before we kind of wrap up and talk about what we're going to talk about next time?
no, just I'm just gonna go ahead and apologize to everyone. Next episode, it's not going to be nearly as good as these three. This will probably be the highlight of whatever we do for the rest of the time. I apologize for
It
setting
Maybe
the
the
might
bar
whole,
so high.
it might be
yeah,
the most fun we'll have all year for sure. It
it
might
might
be
be
the
the
most fun.
best podcast episode we ever have.
We'll never know. We'll have to find out. Um, so we had teased this in the last couple of episodes, and when we were wrapping up at the end of the year, we teased that we were going to do a sort of a series of episodes looking at a particular filmmaker. And we decided we'll start big. We didn't want to sort of start this off by doing 3 or 4 episodes about maybe a filmmaker that's a bit hit or miss, or a filmmaker that maybe is a bit controversial that not everybody likes their stuff. We just said, fuck it, let's just pick the biggest filmmaker, one of the most critically acclaimed, if not the most critically acclaimed, and let's just talk about all of his movies over the course of like 3 or 4 episodes. So the next few episodes, we are going to be reviewing the entire filmography of Stanley Kubrick.
All right.
Um, Yes, gonna be interesting. We will still have interview episodes like in between to break them up. So, um, you know, don't feel like you need to disappear for a month if you're not into Kubrick. But the whole idea of this is that pretty much everybody's into Kubrick in one way, shape, or form. So, I'd be surprised if there's a lot of people not tuning in because it's Kubrick. So next time out, we are going to talk about 4 films in one episode, which I'm pretty sure it's a record for us. I don't think we've ever talked about more than 3 in a single episode. We're doing that
But
just
two of
because
them
of
suck.
yeah. Well, the first 2 are sort of a little bit infamous for just not being very good, and they're very short as well. They're all kind of in or around the hour mark. So next time out, we're going to talk about Fear and Desire, Killer's Kiss, The Killing, and Paths of Glory. I'm looking forward to this. I've never seen Fear, Desire, and Killer's Kiss. Never seen them. Never got around to watching them.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
really looking forward to talking about The Killing and especially Paths of Glory. Really looking forward to rewatching that one. It's been a while, but I absolutely loved it when I last watched it. So that's what we're gonna have next time out. Obviously, we'll still have interviews. Obviously, um, we had the interview with Umbrella Entertainment that just came out last time out. So big shout out to our friends down under. even if I can't watch their horror movies. Big shout out to our friends down under who continue to keep tuning into our episodes. So if you're one of our few Australian listeners, good day, mates. And we're gonna have some other cool interviews coming up in the next few months as well. We've some really exciting ones that I think are a lot of people are gonna really, really enjoy listening to. Cool. I think we're gonna wrap it up there, guys.
We
Thank
need to
you,
have,
Zach,
yeah,
for
thank
those
you,
for
man. I was
Cage.
just We need to have an Australian on the show that just to make fun of Irish people for a while, just to balance things out.
I'd like to see him try. I'd like to see
Anyways,
them try.
thanks, y'all. This was a fun one. Can't wait for the Kubrick run. I will say that the next episode is not dropping on, so this is coming out. You should be listening to this on February 9th or shortly thereafter. The next episode is actually not coming out the 16th. It's coming out the 14th on Valentine's Day, and it's going to be counter programming. It's going to be an episode with Bleeding Skull, and I'm very excited to do some counter programming for a saccharine sweet holiday. So
Awesome.
tune in for that as well.
Awesome. Thank you once again, folks. We'll wrap it up here.
Yeah, remember to eat a peach for hours.
Peace.